A Colorado dentist is behind bars today accused of poisoning his wife with her protein shakes.
Now to the Colorado dentist suspected of fatally poisoning his wife. The man appearing in court on Monday, a day after his arrest, on a charge of suspicion of first-degree murder.
This is the disheartening case of a dentist who allegedly poisoned his wife's protein shakes, and a happily ever after became the worst nightmare of every married couple. A merciless affair, an astonishingly evil scheme, and a deadly poisoning bring an end to a 23-year marriage. How did this purportedly blissful marriage become the subject of devastating news stories? And what caused this evil plan? Join us as we unfold the dark mystery of love and betrayal. The early life of James and Angela Craig. As dentists in the area, James and Angela Craig lived in Aurora, Colorado, an adorable town. Their friends and family knew Angela to have a sharp mind and an unbridled sense of humor. She was acknowledged as a contributing member of her church as well. Those who knew her described her as an amazing mother, supporting her 23-year married husband and 6 children. On the other hand, James Craig was also well-liked in their community. He was seen by many as a bright, industrious man who was also a devout Christian and descended from a respectable family. They had 6 children throughout their 23-year marriage, and everybody in their neighborhood and church assumed they were a happy couple. However, as you will discover, those assumptions were completely false. What went wrong with this happy family? A startling series of events rocked this sleepy town on March 18, 2023, but the narrative truly started a few weeks before when Angela started exhibiting strange symptoms, such as severe headaches and dizziness, which were out of the ordinary for someone who was believed to be in relatively excellent condition. The unusual symptoms of Angela. Meanwhile, Angela cherished the protein smoothies her husband cooked for her and frequently hit the gym. However, in the weeks preceding that tragic Thursday morning, Angela's health unexpectedly took a sharp turn and her once manageable symptoms worsened, requiring several hospital visits. In fact, on March 6th, because she was so concerned about her waning health, Angela texted James, saying, "I feel drugged." James said in response, instead of expressing sympathy or concern, "Given our history, I know that must be triggering. Just for the record, I didn't drug you. I am super worried though. You look pale before I left, like in your lips even." How come James felt he had to clarify, "I didn't drug you"? Angela visited the hospital multiple times in a span of 2 weeks, but she was still unable to identify the cause of all these strange symptoms. Even though James had expressed doubts about his wife's condition during their hospital stays, the hospital was sadly unable to provide her with definite answers. She managed to recover, though, and was sent home with no answers. Angela attempted to resume her everyday life and hoped for the best, but the worst was still ahead of her. Angela woke up feeling under the weather again on that fateful Thursday. Still, she probably wanted to return to her regular schedule after 3 hospital trips that yielded no results. However, she went to the gym that morning and James made her the same protein drink when she got home. It was something James did for Angela daily, and it would ultimately turn into the focal point of this terrible case. Angela drank the protein shake that morning, hoping it would help her feel better. Sadly, the shake did not relieve Angela's symptoms. In fact, the opposite occurred. Angela's symptoms grew worse, and during the course of the morning, her condition drastically deteriorated and her health took a disastrous turn. Apparently, she had gone from feeling lightheaded and faint to experiencing complete seizures. Eventually, James dialed 911 for assistance. Angela was discovered by the cops unconscious on her bedroom floor. After being hastily taken to the hospital once more, Angela was admitted and placed on a ventilator for critical care. After a few days, on March 21, 2023, Angela was declared brain dead and removed from life support. This unexpected and devastating chain of events shocked their entire quiet neighborhood and made no sense for someone who was reasonably young and in good health. How could a devoted Christian pass away within a few weeks? And some of her friends and family didn't understand at all, but the story obviously doesn't end there. Simply put, the results of Angela's autopsy showed that she had been poisoned with cyanide and arsenic. However, this new information may finally explain all of Angela's strange symptoms, which had forced her to visit the hospital several times and were probably the cause of her death. As a very hazardous material, arsenic can produce a wide range of symptoms, such as headaches, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and seizures. Arsenic may be deadly in excessive doses, and in the sad case of Angela Craig's death, it most definitely was. So how did the search for Angela's death turn from a tragic mystery to a murder case? Who would want such a lovely woman like that dead? Also, who would want to poison a defenseless mother? The story takes a dreadful turn at this point, but sadly, the answer is closer than anybody could have imagined. Or perhaps some of Angela's friends and family did guess who might be responsible for her strange and untimely death. The investigation case. Investigators swiftly turned their attention to James Craig because there were few suspects who may have any reason to want Angela dead. What they discovered soon exposed more layers of betrayal than anybody could have anticipated. It was discovered during the investigation that James and Angela were not in the supposedly peaceful relationship that several others in their community had thought. As a matter of fact, Angela and James had long-standing marital issues. The police warrant that was eventually obtained provided shocking and unexpected information about James and Angela's troubled relationship, painting a dismal picture of the couple's difficulties. It was soon ascertained that close friends and co-workers of Angela had suspicions that James had poisoned her before and might have had a history of poisoning her. Meanwhile, these same close friends and co-workers went to the police with their stories and suspicions about James. When Angela Craig arrived at the hospital on March 15th, one of Craig's business partners told the nurse that he thought James might have poisoned Angela, a severe charge against James, who is generally well-liked in his neighborhood. Why would James's business associate reach such an alarming conclusion? Why would someone take such a risk? As it happens, this tale is far more complex than it initially appears to be. The business partner in question had been acquainted with James and Angela for over 2 decades. James had confided in him during that period that he and Angela were experiencing serious financial difficulties in addition to marital issues. After learning everything there was to know about Angela and James, James's business partner was unable to ignore the subsequent unusual events that took place in their office. James's business partner, however, reported to the authorities that James recently placed an order for potassium cyanide to be transported to their dentist's clinic. James's business partner quickly became skeptical of James's motives after realizing that there was no medical purpose for such a chemical to be at a dentistry practice. Nevertheless, Angela's sister had always harbored certain suspicions about James, even before the poison showed up at James's office door. The police were later informed by Angela's sister that the marriage between Angela and James had always been chaotic and that she had known for a long time that things were not going well in their union. She informed the authorities that James was addicted to porn and had various affairs with different women. Thus, James was anything but the honorable man he presented himself as. Furthermore, Angela's sister informed the investigators that Angela had repeatedly promised to leave her husband over the years, but she never followed through, which may have motivated James to poison her. Or was there something else? The next surprising revelation by Angela's sister demonstrated that maybe James has more than one skeleton in his closet. Angela's sister told the police that James had attempted to drug his wife previously. Once more, this is disturbing because James claimed that he didn't want Angela to get in the way of his suicide plan. Who would poison someone else while they were trying to kill themselves? That's weird. This absolutely explains James's suspicious text back that he wasn't drugging her. Was James considering suicide again? Is it why James might have sent poisoning orders to his office? Could it also be the reason James seemed to be poisoning his wife? Now, the manager of James's workplace, who first saw the unusual package at James's office, claimed to have witnessed the strange delivery. At that time, the office manager didn't know what the chemical was used for. Therefore, she didn't know if giving it to James would be harmful. Later, the office manager was shocked to learn that potassium cyanide had been delivered to James's office and that it was toxic after doing a Google search to learn more about it. But the most startling aspect of her discovery was that all the symptoms Angela had been displaying for the past few weeks may potentially be caused by potassium cyanide. The office manager was alarmed by the new information and called another coworker as soon as possible to share what she had learned. This colleague then informed James's business partner about the startling contents of the package. James was then challenged by his business partner regarding the strange package. James was taken aback when his business partner questioned him, but he swiftly responded, claiming that was actually a ring to surprise Angela. However, this story didn't make sense, given the large number of witnesses. Since poison isn't something that gets delivered to your office every day, the business partner continued to question James about the odd item. However, James claimed to his business partner that he had purchased the potassium cyanide at Angela's request when he was questioned further about it. How could Angela desire poison? Is James implying that Angela was planning to poison herself? James further emphasized to the police that Angela was suicidal, but no proof of Angela's suicidal behavior was discovered when the police eventually looked into the matter. Following their argument, James texted his business partner on March 15th, requesting that they keep their chat private. Apparently, James told his business partner in this text message, "I have to hire a homicide attorney to make sure I don't end up being painted in the light that, some hungry DA is anxious to paint me in because I am most likely going to be charged, even though that is absolutely not what happened." If James really did poison Angela, what was his actual motive to end her life? Was it money, marital problems, or porn problems? And why now? Well, what the cops found out next may provide the answers we've been searching for: James's secret affair. While Angela was in and out of the hospital, James Craig had been having an affair with a different lady, whom he may have believed he might be with if his wife passed away. A woman he had been actively sleeping with. James was having an extramarital affair with Karen Kane, a married woman. The police discovered that the affair had been ongoing for several months before Angela Craig's death. At a dental conference in 2022, Karen Kane, a Texas orthodontist, was introduced to James Craig. The two got to talking and hit it off right away, clearly in love, and that's where it should have ended. After they met, James started an affair with Karen, an affair that Angela and Karen Kane's husband were completely unaware of. In order to prevent their respective wives from discovering anything, James and Karen met at quiet hotels and other inconspicuous places to keep their affair a secret. They did, however, exchange texts and emails, but they took great care to leave no trace of their correspondence, emails that would later give even more severe proof against James. James and Karen both took extreme measures to ensure that their romantic relationship remained hidden. Regardless of what was happening in their house, he was determined to continue this affair. In the final weeks before Angela passed away, James made arrangements for Karen to travel to Colorado and see him while Angela was ill in the hospital. Police discovered proof in those emails concerning the trip that James was hiding his affair using new email addresses. They also discovered intimate letters with explicit sexual content. It's a very unsettling revelation, to say the least, that these same emails were also used to place multiple orders of poison. A warrant later revealed that it seemed James was flying this woman into Denver while his wife and his children's mother were dying in the hospital. As the investigation progressed, it was evident that James had a deep-seated motivation to kill Angela, his affair with Karen. Investigators concluded that he would have believed he would be free to be with Karen Kane if Angela Craig was dead. Karen sent James an email 2 days before Angela was declared brain dead, expressing her compassion for what he was going through. But Karen said that she didn't want to hide her feelings for him, so she didn't think it was appropriate for her to mingle with people who had gathered to mourn Angela. Sadly, it seems like James's plan was successful. It is evident that James and Karen's friendship has blossomed, and he was anxious for it to continue without his wife getting in the way. Months ago, James looked into YouTube and Google for topics such as how many grams of pure arsenic would kill a human. Is there evidence of arsenic in an autopsy? The top 10 deadliest plants that can kill you, how to produce poison, and the top 5 invisible poisons that won't exhibit any symptoms of foul play. Finally, James Craig placed an order for arsenic on Amazon.com on February 27th and received the box on March 4th. Angela was then brought to a hospital with symptoms consistent with arsenic poisoning just 2 days later. After being discharged from the hospital that day, Angela returned on March 9th with the same symptoms. James Craig placed an order for potassium cyanide from a medical supply company during Angela's hospital stay on March 9th. However, James completely lied to the seller, claiming to be a surgeon who planned to use the potassium cyanide for a medical procedure. He then gave the seller his work email and dental license number, but he ordered the poison using a newly made personal email address, jimandwafflesgmail.com. James picked that email out of all of them. Investigators gradually realized that James Craig was the only one poisoning his wife, Angela, and James Craig kept ordering more poison each time Angela was admitted to the hospital. He really requested 2 more poisons from medical suppliers, oleandrin and cyanide, but the oleandrin was never delivered to him since the box was seized by the authorities. Given how difficult it was to identify the poisons James was using, it is natural that the hospital was unable to determine what was wrong with Angela. And if it weren't for Angela's sister and his numerous public errors, James could have gotten away with it. Additionally, Angela's sister informed police that she had to pressure James Craig to have an autopsy done on Angela in case she passed away from a hereditary issue that could have affected one of their 6 children. This was a legitimate request, but James refused to comply since he was concealing his evil deeds. But thankfully, Angela's autopsy was eventually conducted, and it was found that she had been poisoned to death. This was in addition to the overwhelmingly strong physical evidence against James, which included the discovery of cyanide and arsenic in both his car and residence by investigators. Additionally, they discovered a receipt from a nearby hardware store for the purchase of arsenic. It was also disclosed that James asked churchgoers to assist him in clearing out what seemed to be a murder scene at his house the day before Angela passed away. A source close to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints South Shore Ward, where James and Angela were members, claims that while Angela was in the hospital, members of the church were asked to assist in organizing Craig's mudroom and basement at their home in Aurora before the other family arrived. Just after 1 p.m. on March 17th, before Angela was formally declared dead, an odd email request was made to churchgoers. Meanwhile, detectives investigating homicides for major crimes had already carried out a search warrant on the family residence the day before. In less than 24 hours after the church members searched, Angela, who was unconscious and in intensive care, was declared brain dead. When an Aurora Police Department detective contacted James at his friend's house on March 16th, he initially refused to speak with them. As a result, the search warrant was executed on this residence around 15 minutes later. Subsequently, the police seized a number of things from the Craig residence, including protein powders, shakers similar to those used for working out, water bottles, computer tablets, and 2 distinct plastic Ziploc bags, all of which had white, powdery stuff inside of them but were unlabeled. Therefore, authorities discovered evidence against James even after he sent his church group over to attempt and perhaps clean up the crime scene. The arrest and trial of James Craig. James Craig was taken into custody on March 20th, 2023, on suspicion of first-degree murder, following the review of all available evidence and a search. Chief of the Aurora Police Division Mark Hildenbrand described Angela Craig's killing in a statement issued after James's arrest as a horrific, planned murder. On March 28, 2023, James Craig's trial got underway. Following official filings, he showed up in person to face the first-degree murder charge. In addition, James entered the courtroom with his head lowered, his hands bound, and his ankles shaking. He did not look at any of the relatives or friends who had gathered to offer their support. The prosecution claimed that because James Craig was well-liked by his neighbors, active in his community, and seen by many as a wonderful husband and father, it was harder for people to believe that he was capable of murder. After 4 days of deliberation, the jury found the accused guilty. James Craig received a life sentence without the chance of release. How can a lovely husband and a good father turn into a beast overnight? What do you think about this shocking and painful case? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please click on any of our videos displayed on your screen for more shocking cases like this. See you in our next video.